This is the upper house. Okay, this is the second body of Congress. Okay, so you have the House and now you have the Senate. We're on page 7 in the packet as we're going through. Okay, the Senate has 100 members. Thus, how many per state?
2.
Good. Okay. 100 members, 2 per state. All right? You serve a 6-year term. 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election every 2 years. So as the House is re-elected completely every 2 years, the Senate is 1/3 every 2 years. All right? This is designed as the Senate has a little bit more status. They are viewed as being the higher branch. The House is deemed to be the voice of the people. So if something is happening in the United States, the House is where you can affect change the fastest. All right? You have a 6-year term. You must be 30 years old. You must be a U.S. citizen for 9 years. And again, you must live in the state that you represent. Okay, same idea. So Hillary Clinton was a senator from New York. She was not born there. She moved there after Bill Clinton left office into New York, and that's how she could be the senator from New York. Okay? The head of the Senate, the president of the Senate, is the vice president. He only votes, though, if there is a tie in the Senate on a vote. So if you have a 50-50 split in the Senate, which we had a couple years ago, then the vice president is in charge of fixing that. Okay? So, with their responsibility with regards to impeachment, they will try the impeachment. So the House impeaches, and then it goes to the Senate where to decide if they are guilty of their impeachment. Clinton was impeached and then was found not guilty, if you will, by the Senate.
So if you're found guilty, does that mean that you're kicked out?
Then you are kicked out.
So it,
Okay? We have, correct. We have had 2 presidents impeached. We have never had a president found guilty of impeachment. Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton were the only 2. Richard Nixon was on his way to being impeached, and he likely would have been found guilty, but he resigned before impeachment proceedings happened. Okay? Watergate is what he would have been impeached over, but he resigned instead. Okay? So, all right. So what they do, okay, they pass laws, okay? Powers and duties that they have, okay? Both the House and Senate they both propose laws, okay? They both declare war. This is a tricky one. We have not declared war in the United States in about 65 years. All right? Which is why whenever you hear about a war today, they call them operations. It's because they are not officially wars. The last war that was official was the Korean War. Now the president can call up troops in order to defend the country, basically. The check on that, though, is that the House and Senate, Congress, must approve money that goes towards the military. So that's the check on that situation. All right? I am looking at this one off of this piece right now. I'm just kind of going down that list. But we are on page 8, basically, is where we're going to be here in a second. Tax laws. Tax laws must start out of the House. All right? Any kind of tax law starts in the House. That is the first step. Okay? It then will go to the Senate. If the president vetoes a bill, all right? In order to pass a bill, you need a 50% to pass a bill. All right? It then goes to the president. I shouldn't say that. It goes 50% in one house. It then goes to the other house, to the Senate. All right? So if it starts in the House, it then goes to the Senate or vice versa, where they vote then for 50%. When we were talking about the government shutdown last week, the Senate passed their bill. It then went to the House where it was passed. After this, it goes to the president. The president has one of two choices. The president can sign it, and if they sign it, it becomes a law. Okay? And that's it. The president can also veto the law. Vetoing the law is saying that he disagrees with it. That is his check on the legislature. Obama has said he will veto any law that defunds Obamacare. Right? A check on that then. It goes back to the House or to the Congress, and they can override the veto with a 2/3 vote.
It goes back to the House.
Correct. It goes back to the House that it was started in. If Congress has a 2/3 majority, they can override the president's veto. The House is half of the Congress. House and the Senate equal the Congress. Okay? If 2/3 of the Congress agree, they can override the president's veto. That is, as you can imagine, very difficult to do. Right? It's hard to get through that. Okay? If they override it, it becomes a law. If they don't override it, which is most likely going to happen, then the bill dies. The Congress is... You have a question? Yeah. Both. It starts in the House that proposes the law, and then it goes to the other House. All right? All right, so within the Constitution on page 10, okay? Page 10, there are the enumerated powers. 10. That's spelled so wrong. It's a word I don't know how to spell very well. The enumerated powers, okay? If you look at section 8 here, there is a list of 18 things that 17 things that the Congress can do, okay? Borrow money, regulate commerce, declare war. These are the things that we've kind of talked about, all right? The 18th is called the Elastic Clause. The Elastic Clause allows the Congress to pass other laws that are not implicitly written in there. An example of this would be they are able to regulate what's on television, the FCC. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that they control what's on television, because when the Constitution was written, television didn't exist, right? But because we have this policy, we can, as a Congress, expand those ideas.
So,
So what it is, it ends up being something called implied powers. An implied power is something that the Congress does not have the direct ability to do, but they take that role on because of the elastic clause. Elastic stretches, right? So it allows them a little bit more freedom to do things that they want to do. Congress. Yep, this is all Congress. Okay? They protect habeas corpus. We talked about that today. They approve spending. If the government wishes to spend something, the Congress must approve that. No, this is part of the. No, this is following down. We're on page 12 right now. Okay, just kind of skipping ahead there a little bit. Yeah. Yes, 17. And the 18th one is the elastic clause. If you look on page 10, there are these 17 numbers that are coming down here, right, on the left side. Right. And then 18 is the elastic clause. To make all laws in which be necessary and proper for carrying. You got to go to the next page. Okay. And there's a nice little cartoon there to describe the elastic clause. Okay. So this is a huge check on the president that they approve the spending. As we'll see, this is where you can say if a president is trying to fight a war, like let's say in Iraq, when Bush was fighting and it became very unpopular, he will argue to the Congress, if you don't approve this, you are not supporting the military, which then looks very bad for the Congress. So there are ways to kind of get around it. Okay? So the last thing, all right, that we'll look at this point is the Constitution in terms of changing it. The Congress may propose a constitutional amendment. 2/3 vote. No, this is the last thing. This is not on the packet. We'll talk about this whole thing on Thursday, but I want to just throw this on here. Constitutional amendment. Okay? In order to change the Constitution, 2/3 vote to start the process. And we'll see moving forward how that changes. So the numbers you need to know for the Congress, all right? 50% to pass a law. 2/3 to override a presidential veto. 2/3 to propose a constitutional amendment. 50 to pass a law. 60 to override. Okay.
2/3 to override
A presidential veto. Questions? Yes. I would focus much more on the stuff that I just touched on right there. Okay? It's one of the benefits of these little study sessions is that I can cut out some of the stuff that is unnecessary. Not to say that it's unnecessary to know the Constitution. Let's rephrase. Unnecessary to know for a test that's coming up next week. Okay? Any other questions you guys have? Tomorrow we will do executive and judicial. Okay? So if you have more questions that come up, feel free to bring them in.
Okay, I have a question.